What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 7 of the Boot Nerds podcast. What's up, Jay?
What's up, guys? How you all doing?
They can't talk back.
No, I know. But I'm just glad to be back, man. It's always a pleasure. I'm ready to talk some boots today because we have a fire topic for you today. Basically, something you and I have been discussing for a long time, I guess. The boots that really changed the world. And you'd think it's a 5-minute thing, but actually, the more we talked about it, it ended up being quite an extensive list, right?
Yeah, because there's a lot of boots that have been extremely influential in the boots that came after those boots.
Yeah.
And I think what we realized when we put this list together is a lot of these boots have come out very recently, like last 10 years.
Exactly. And that's probably also because technology has been moving on. So we're going to go through that list today and talk about why we think, obviously, these things are some of the most influential boots, some of the most important boots for the development of football boots over basically ever. But before we get into the list, guys, remember that we also do a Q&A section every podcast. So if you have any questions that you would like us to answer, boot-related, football-related, whatever, maybe why Josh has dyed his hair, I don't know, it could be anything, you should leave them in the comment section right down below. And we're going to try and answer as many in the next episode as we possibly can. So just keep that in mind. And also, now that you're added, we want to spread the word, yeah? So if you can slap a like on the video and tell your mom and your friend and your pet parrot to go subscribe, we would really appreciate it.
That would be great. Also, if you want the audio-only versions of the podcast, it's available on all the streaming services at bootnerds.com. So bootnerds.com, very easy to remember. Type it in if you want the audio-only version. It's all available there.
Exactly. And I think with those words, we should kick it off.
Cool. I think... What do you want to... I guess we have to start with the oldest boot on this list, no?
Yeah, I think it makes the most sense, right? So we're kind of building up the tension, moving on into modern day where we are now.
Oh, it's going to get mixed up, though. I do have it right here. This football boot, if you want to call it that.
It is a proper boot, right? It's a high cut boot, if I ever saw one. The Puma Super Atoms. And actually, Adi, always have claimed that they made the first boot with screw-in studs, but history shows that he was actually Puma with the Super Atom. So the first football boot out there from 1954 with screw-in studs that we see the pros using today. So important boot, stiff as a rock, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, they're basically work boots. If I was going to go into the construction business and I had to pick a pair of boots to wear, football boots, of course, this would be it.
It's, that toe cap invites for, Ronaldo in 2002 would have been very, very happy with those scoring against Turkey. That is the perfect toe boot out there. And it's not like, looking at leather boots today, how soft and pliable and accommodating the leather is. It wasn't like that back in 1954, I can tell you, because, that leather is just ridiculously stiff. For those people who can see, try and squeeze it.
This was a remake. I'd be really curious to know how the original felt. But like when I first got these, the thing that surprised me is that they reminded me a lot of like old school hockey skates that used to just be made out of really stiff leather. These are almost the equivalent.
Yes.
It's amazing to me that they kicked the ball in this.
And the funny thing is also, the laces. The laces are ridiculously long. I don't know if it was a thing back then. You just had to like tie your laces halfway up your calf. But look at that.
Oh, that's incredible.
but the funniest thing about the remake, right? Obviously, back in the day, the Super Atom had screw-in studs. But the remake, the studs have been nailed firmly into the tooling itself.
Yeah.
I mean... I appreciate they made it almost a one-to-one remake, and then they go and make the thing that made the original boot so special. They don't do that. Like,
yeah, this was cheaper.
Apparently so. But yeah, that was kind of the first really big thing for me, at least in football boots, the screw-in studs. That changed a whole lot of things because you could also play then in mud and all sorts of nasty weather. And then a couple of years went by. Actually, a whole lot of years. And the next boot we kind of talked about was, of course, the granddaddy of football boots, 1982, the Copa Mundial. I'm sure you have a lot of feelings about these.
I think if you're going to name the most important football boot ever, it's probably the Copa Mundial.
I would agree, yeah. It's really the boot that took leather technology and basically elevated it to a whole new level. Obviously, we have a boot that's still being made and being sold today. Most sold football boot to date, I think it's fair to say. And it just oozes class still in 2019. So, with the advancements they made in having leather, making it thinner, obviously way more pliable than they did back in 1954. They had the molded outsole, the conical studs, they had good grip. It wasn't too uncomfortable. It wasn't too stiff. It moved with the foot. It was basically just a milestone. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, this was the last football boot that Adi Dassler himself worked on before he died.
Really? So, I didn't know that.
I think so, yeah. I might be wrong. There might be some Adidas purists out there who will kill me for that statement, but I think this was the last. I didn't think he finished it, but it was the last one he worked on, if I'm not completely mistaken. But there we go. With that said, though, back in the 80s, Mizuno also developed the Mercurial, which was significantly lighter, actually, with more or less the same technology as the Copa had. So that's also worthy of a shout out, I think, the Mercurial.
For sure. You know what made me appreciate the Copa? Is it's one of those boots that I think you could look at and think, hey, there's not really anything that crazy or special about it. It seems pretty straightforward. But then I got a pair of Pantofoladdoro Lazzarinis. Mm-hmm. And I wore them, and I was so excited for those because it's like a handmade in Italy, really soft calf leather. It was just a cool concept to me. But when you actually try to play in those things, they're brutal. They're almost not even made to play in, and then they take like 3 weeks to dry. and then you realize, wow, the Copa is exactly kind of this concept, but it works so much better.
And that's what's really impressive, that we've seen all of these handmade in Italy boots popping up over the years. And, the Copa's just still doing very, very well. And you just can't fault it for that. So I agree, probably the most important boot on the list. But it just goes to show that some things just never die. And leather, no nonsense, comfort is just one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Then we move forward a bit again. 1994, the Predator Cup, as I have it right here in my hands. They also made it with FG studs called the Predator Liga, which was the first Predator that was ever made. Talk me through it.
1994. I was born 1 year before that boot came out. So I don't have a lot of memory of that from my childhood. I was more like first Predator I was paying attention to was like Precision, Predator Mania type thing.
Yeah, makes sense.
I think that boot represents the power boot craze. Like that's what started it. The rubber element thing that sadly has kind of gone away these days. But that was a major part of like the modernization of football boots because the Predator series, it's technically still around today. That was a big deal. Everyone knew what an Adidas Predator was.
Exactly, and kind of, as much as the Copa Mundial set the tone for Adi, and it is a really recognizable boot today. I think the Predator Silo has probably been one of the most iconic and most influential football boots that we've seen today, together with one of the boots that's going to be on the list a little bit later. But what they brought to the game, like they completely redefined how a football boot could look and feel and what it could actually do. And the whole story about the Predator Liga or the Predator Cup here, the first Predator, is that there was this guy called Craig Johnston who had he was teaching kids and he was telling them how to put swerve on the ball, and he said, do like you put swerve on a table tennis ball, so you kind of like do this spin motion on the side of the ball with your foot. And they said, look man, Craig, we can't do it just like with a table tennis bat because that has grip on it from the rubber. So Craig went home and thought, yo, I gotta make he probably didn't think yo, but he went home and actually slapped a table tennis rubber piece on a pair of football boots and pitched the idea to Adidas. And Adidas rejected him. So he went back and he made a couple other samples, and then he actually got some of the influential Bayern Munich players or people at Bayern Munich to wear his Predator or would-be Predator samples, and they were so impressed that when he showed it to Adidas, they just said, look, we have to make this. So pretty funny story.
That is, I did not know any of that, but it totally makes sense. But I think what's cool about that boot and really the Predator series is that that's really the first deviation from boots like the Copa. Everything up until that point was pretty much just straight leather, and that's it.
And you can kind of see what Nike did in 1994 was to make their Tiempo, which was okay back then. It was light, but Adi made the Predator. So clearly, okay, Nike were just getting started, and they would come back at it with this. But it really goes to show how different the Predator was in 1994. But then 4 years passed. Mercurial R9 in 1998. Fantastic football boot.
Another very important in terms of I think if you're making a top 5 most influential boots ever, while that might not go down in history as one of the best ever Mercurials, obviously the Mercurial line, very important. But the fact that that's a synthetic upper, I think is the key takeaway here, because really up until that point, synthetics were not a thing in football boots.
At all. And we're talking a soft, almost leather-like upper here. There's sticky elements on the ball. You have this really innovative bladed outsole. And it was just a good fit. It weighed 240-something grams, if I remember correctly. And back then, that was ridiculously light. And obviously, it was made for R9 in this special colorway. We all remember him losing the World Cup final with these hanging around his neck. But it was just one of those boots that changed the way we think about football boots today, and we can still see the legacy from the Mercurial R9 in boots today with the Vapors, the X's, previously with the Evo Speeds, the F50s. I mean, it's just still there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much anything that's not leather, you can almost credit to that particular boot.
Yeah, basically. Pretty important boot. Turned into the Mercurial Vapor I in 2002. Weighed 202 grams, or was it? No, 196 grams back in 2002. Obviously, also built on this was built on a sprint spike. So they basically took and had a sprint spike and put an upper on top of that and developed it from there. One-piece synthetic upper, super light, very tight fitting, not very comfortable, but really groundbreaking.
That boot represents for me, that's the turning point for modern football boots. That is the most important one. I remember as a kid, because watching on TV was one thing, but the quality was not that great. You couldn't get the detail like you have now with HD TV. So you had to buy the magazines as a kid to really see close-up pictures, detailed pictures of the pros and what they were wearing. And I remember seeing pictures of pros wearing the Mercurial Vapor I and thinking to myself, what the heck are those? They look like space boots compared to everything else.
And that's the thing. They really look otherworldly because they're so fast. They're so low profile, right? They're so sleek, so aerodynamic. They have this one-piece upper that was completely unheard of back then. It was just like a marvelous piece of technology. And it's still fun to wear. It's not very comfortable, but to this day, this is one of the best outsoles I have ever used. So responsive, so aggressive. Fantastic.
Yeah, think about what else was out at that time. It was Vapor 1 was popular, and then you had Predator Manias. Think about the difference in just the look of those two. Crazy.
Oh, yeah. But then again, still the two most iconic, maybe even the most iconic boots that came out in 2002, right? The Vapor 1s and the Manias.
Yeah.
But very, very different. You can easily say that. And again, Mercurial Vapor is on its 12th generation now, so it's also a pretty tough one.
Mm-hmm.
And then
where are we on this list?
I think we're moving into 2006 Zhero Gravities.
Zero Gravities. Yeah, I've got those right here. 2006. Lotto Zero Gravity. OG. This is important. Not so much for, I guess, what it did in terms of sales, because nobody really bought these. If I remember correctly, these were $300.
They were
$300 US back in the day. So they were the most expensive boot you could buy back then. And at the time, what would have been the Mercurial? 2006, it would have been the Vapor 3 at that time.
Yeah.
but it's a laceless football boot. And obviously this is something that would become a lot more popular years later. But back in 2006, while there were some people that thought this was really cool if they could afford them, it's something that people did not receive very well at all.
And that was funny, right? Because when laceless boots dropped again in 2016, people lost their mind and was like, oh my God, a laceless football. But back then it was like, what are these guys doing? Are you serious? You can't play with that. The funny thing is that, in my opinion, this is one of the best laceless boots still in terms of how well they fit and perform. Because the lockdown was actually decent. They're impossible, like absolutely impossible to put on your feet. But they actually performed pretty well once you got them on.
Very impossible to put on your feet. I remember the first time I went to put a pair on at the store, I ended up ripping the heel of my sock trying to jam my foot in, because this back part, that's what a lot of people don't realize about these. The back part right here and this whole top piece is basically just this really thick rubber material that has the slightest bit of stretch to it. But because there's almost no stretch, it's not enough. You basically just have to like jam your foot in, and it's very grippy. So it grips your socks, and it just, I don't know. I had a hard time putting these on.
But it was fun to play in, man. It was a proper ballet shoe, this. Yeah,
it is. It's very sleek.
But also pretty fun that this was created by, or created in part, by the way, by a guy called Denis Dekovic, who also created one of the other important boots on this list. But we'll get to that a bit later. But he left his mark on football boot technology. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think you know what you could also say. You could also say about the Zero Gravity. It's kind of the last major Lotto release. Because they were very popular up until that point.
They were, yeah. And then they did this, and apparently everyone just started, because the Zhero they made, the Zhero Plus they made before this was actually a proper contender for best speed boot on the market in 2003, 2004, 2005. Up until the point where they made this, they weighed 180 grams, were ridiculously cool, really, really kicking ass in the Vapor, in my opinion. So that was weird.
Yeah.
That leaves us at, I think, 2010 F50 Adizero?
Yeah, very important football boot. The OG F50 Adizero. And it's not the first. A lot of people mistake that as the first F50. Not at all the first F50.
No.
There was a lot of them before that. The Tune It series, which was, I would say, looking back, kind of a fail. And then you had just the regular F50 and then the F50 Plus before they did the Tune It thing, which were actually really good boots.
They were fantastic boot. The F50 Plus is one of those boots that it wasn't that revolutionary, but it's just a good boot, and it hits me right in the feels. The gold edition, the white and black. You'll remember Santiago Munez rocking it. Oh man.
Yeah, those are cool boots for sure.
Did you see the film? Gold.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was a thing everywhere.
Not the best film, but boots were cool. But yeah, the F50 Adizero weighed in the synthetic version. I have the leather version in my hand here. The synthetic version weighed 156 grams. 156 grams. Even by today's standards, that's light. And he was just
that was insane. I remember when those came out. The F50 would have been the last one. iTunes, it was the last F50 beforehand, right? And really, those didn't sell. Nobody was buying, at least where I live in Canada, nobody had F50s, period. But then when the F50 Adizero came out, I was one of the early adopters. And I got a pair, and it was just mind-blowingly light. And I remember taking them to training one day and showing all my teammates. And everybody had to hold these shoes. And like, it was like half the weight of anything that seemingly had ever existed in the football boot industry. It's just ridiculous how light those things are.
Yeah. Unisport, I just started doing reviews for Unisport back then, 2010. Time has passed. But I remember getting the box with the synthetics and the leather boot. I hold in my hands here. They were both in it. And I remember thinking, oh man, they only sent me one pair because it was so light. I didn't realize it actually had two pairs in it. I think the box they came in weighed more than the boots themselves, which was kind of ridiculous. But they had this a sprint skin upper, this really, really thin synthetic that actually also was in a previous or earlier iteration on the F50 iTunes. But it was just made a lot thinner. They put on, of course, the sprint frame outsole, which was, I think, 1 millimeter thin at the thinnest point, and he was so light, so responsive, so obviously very, very thin, crisp on the ball that everyone just went crazy with these. Fantastic milestone for football boots.
It was cool. Were you? I assume that was one of your go-tos when it was a thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I love these. I've worn these leather boots so much, and recently I dug them out. I thought I'd broken them, thrown them away, and I found them. I cleaned them, and now they're my gems. They're just sitting on the shelf.
You were leather. You picked the leather ones back then.
Yeah, I liked them a little bit more because they were still really light. They weighed around 200 grams, 195, I think, in my size. So that was still really light back in 2010. I just felt that they gave me a little bit more padding on the ball because, there was no protection in the synthetic version. What did you go for?
I see. The first ones I bought, I had the purple messy chameleon ones in leather.
Oh, yeah, same.
And then after, I really liked them. So after basically saving up until I could afford another pair, I ended up buying was it cyan blue? The light blue one with the white stripes?
Yeah, that was probably
the pink studs. I think it was cyan blue.
Yeah, that was cool.
I ended up buying those in the synthetic model, and I ended up preferring the synthetic model back then.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm weird.
You're a hockey player. You don't care about comfort. You just hardcore performance, right?
Yeah, that's all I wanted. What do we got next?
Great boot, by the way. The Venoms. If my good friend Jolter had been here, he would claim this to be the best boot ever, and I would be inclined to agree with him. It's a very, very good football boot, and it was basically you who requested it to be on the list, but I kind of understand why, because it took Nike boots in a new direction. But tell me a little more about your thoughts here.
I think the reason why the Phantom 1 is such an important boot is because of how it feels. I think the reason why it was so popular is because of the softness of that Nike Skin upper, the fact that it was a mesh-based synthetic, which I would say is more or less, it was the first of its kind. We had seen textiles before, but that was the first one that was that soft. And now I think where football boots have gone since then is all about sock-like feel. And I think that did sock-like feel first.
At least it was so thin and so pliable that you didn't really feel any restriction. Or you had no restrictions around your foot, and it just felt light and nimble, and you felt on your toes. And I really appreciated that. I remember a story when Jolter and I got these in the office a couple of weeks ahead of launch, and Jolter was actually running around screaming, agility, wearing these. Because they felt so free on your feet. And obviously seeing mesh-based boots all over these days, this also set a pretty important marker for football boots as well. And it was beautiful. This is like one of the all-time Nike design classics, I would say.
Yeah, what was your initial opinion when it came out? Did you love it immediately, or were you like, it's kind of a weird position for the swoosh?
It took me, I think, 20 minutes to adjust to the swoosh placement, but I just think the whole color combination, the whole blocking design, the skull on the back, it does something to me that I really, really appreciate. It has this really Nike design language to it that I love.
I like that you mentioned the skull as being cool, because I always thought that was really cool, and I was kind of disappointed they ended up getting rid of it.
I know what you mean, and it had all this, the scorpion, the scorpion video they made, or the snake video they made for the whole PR package. It was just like it was a very a deadly marketing campaign they ran back then. The skull just fit in perfectly, beautiful.
Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Very important. Should we then jump to another one of your honorable mentions?
Another honorable mention. Which one do you want to go with? I got a few honorable mentions. I'm going to go. Oh, you know what I did? I forgot to grab it. But
which is it? The EvoPower 1?
The EvoPower 1. You got it right there. Okay, good.
My hands.
Perfect. Now, this is kind of an odd pick because I don't think the EvoPower 1 goes down as a particularly memorable boot. Most people would never put that on a list of most influential ever. But the reason why I think the EvoPower 1 is so important is because I think it marks the change in power boots, where we went from stuff like the Predator and the T90 Laser, these bulky, big rubber striking element type things, to something like the EvoPower that was almost speed boot-esque, obviously very lightweight, much thinner, and it had the striking element that wasn't necessarily rubber, but I think that's kind of what we're seeing now, making a comeback with the Phantom Venom from Nike. It was kind of like the precursor to that.
I see what you're saying, and I actually think it's a very good point you're making here, that it marked the change, just like the Hypervenom did back in the day, by the way, that it was as much about, working with the biometrics of the foot to generate power and spin and all that stuff, instead of just slapping layer on top of layer on top of layer with power boots. And it was a really underrated boot, the EvoPower. It never gave much for the actual, increase of power and accuracy with the Accufoam and the gradual stability frame, and the fact that you could move it backwards so your foot could bend naturally and generate more power. I was never into that, but it was just a lovely football boot. The whole upper package was just ridiculously soft, and it was for all the 4 EvoPower boots.
Yeah, to me, the concept and the explanation behind the design was such a cool thing.
I totally agree, yeah. And a good example of Puma trying, stepping outside of the mold and just thinking in completely different directions, and I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, probably also one of the most influential boots on the list. This Volt bad boy right here, Magista Opera 1, 2014, just ahead of the World Cup. It was basically released 3 months.
I think you got to mention this too, though, Jay. You got a Superfly 4 as well. They came out like a month apart.
That's true.
Right.
But the whole dynamic fit color revolution that Nike made with the Magista Opera 1 and the Superfly 4 that was just, how should we say? It was a milestone. It was groundbreaking. It took football boots in a completely different direction. Fully knit upper. You had obviously the dynamic fit collar here, and a whole new way of integrating technology around your foot.
Yeah, I mean, up until 2014, there was no knitted boots. There was no mid-cut boots. Look what we have now. Everything is knitted. Everything is mid-cut. So it's been the most influential boot to come out in the last 10 years, arguably 15 years, not just on Nike, but the entire industry.
I would agree. And it really, it set the standard. It was, bold and iconic looking. It had technology that actually worked, and it was a good boot as well. It felt really nice. It was comfortable, had a good touch on the ball. It was awesome. And you know who also designed these?
The Magistas. Was that it?
Dennis Dekovic.
Was it a Dekovic? So was Phantom 1, though. No Hypervenom Phantom 1?
He also worked on the Phantom ones, I think. Yeah.
I remember seeing his name when those came out.
All right. But then he probably also worked on them. But I remember talking to him for the launch of the Magista. And he played a pretty pivotal role in designing these. So that was pretty awesome.
That was cool. I remember when I got that in person for the first time, just in awe, because when Flyknit first launched, I thought that was one of the craziest tech things ever introduced in footwear. The fact that they knitted everything so precisely down to the millimeter, where every little detail on the shoe had to be a decision. It's not just like where it's a leather upper and it's like, okay, leather covers 90% of what's here. That every single thing had to be like thought out process. So looking at the Opera with so many little patterns and intricate details, it just blew my mind.
I totally agree with you, and that was the beauty of the whole knit thing. We can also look at the Prime Knit Sambas that actually came out before this as the first knitted football boot ever. But this was just you could actually wear this. It was nice to wear, and it refined the technology to such an extent that it is just one of my most groundbreaking football boots ever. I would probably say.
Okay, so I'd say that's probably the end of like the really really big ones. I would say.
Really?
Oh, actually, no, maybe not.
I would point to this as well.
2016
plus laceless coming back. Adi executing, basically taking 2 of Dennis Dekovic's concepts and slapping them into one, laceless and knit. And it wasn't the best performing boot ever, but it was just so iconic and really put Adi back on the map after the whole reshuffle that was kind of catastrophic. But this was something else. And it set the tone for laceless boots that are actually quite good these days, with also a design language that was so iconic that people just had to try it. I think fantastic execution here.
Yeah, no, that's definitely that's the comeback boot for the Adidas brand, right? And the influence of that boot shows in their current lineup for sure.
I totally agree. And I have just one more, which is once again Puma thinking outside of the mold. You can kind of see. I have made my own lacing setup here, the Puma Future Netfit 18.1. Once again, just saying, you know what? Screw the laces, screw everything. We're just going to go make a mesh-based boot with our Netfit technology on so people, can actually use lacing technology as they please to make the fit better. Completely different direction to what anyone was doing back then. Very, very impressive. We loved it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those boots that I wouldn't say it's as influential at this point, but
Agreed.
2 or 3 years down the road, I'm curious to see what Puma's doing and if they stick with that concept.
Yeah.
That's a whole interesting story in itself, just based on almost all of their flagship pros at this point that they're paying to market the Puma Future, wearing them laceless. It's a very interesting situation. Maybe we'll talk about it in a future episode. But,
let's do that. But that kind of marks the end of the line for me now, of course, in 2019. And hopefully we have many more boots to come to add to the list. But I'd also be interested in hearing, of course, what you guys on the other side of the camera think of the most influential boots ever. Did we miss any? Did we overrate any in terms of importance? Let us know your thoughts among your comments and questions down in the comment section below.
Yeah, for sure. I'm actually curious if there's anything else that people really think was super important.
Do people perceive importance and milestone boots differently than we do? That's a pretty interesting topic. I think gonna look forward to reading in the comments there.
Cool. Let's want to move on to some questions, Jay?
Definitely. So I have one here from Isaac. Does the time of year impact which boots you'll wear for training and matches? And I thought a bit about this when I got the question, and it will, but mostly in terms of which outsole or which stud pattern I'm choosing. Otherwise, it's just not really.
I mean, playing conditions, yeah. Obviously, if the ground is soft, you want soft ground. If I'm playing on AG, I want an AG boot. But for me, I would say definitely yes, based on temperature. Okay. I don't mind wearing really thin boots in the summertime. Doesn't bother me at all. But when it's cold outside, no way do I want to wear a Mercurial. Give me a leather boot with some softness and some padding. I don't know. I feel more comfortable. I feel like my feet are warmer. Maybe I'm weird and I have cold feet when I play in the cold weather, but I don't like wearing really thin boots when it's cold, and typically when it's raining as well. I like to have something with a little bit more padding.
That's pretty interesting. I understand the whole cold thing because when your feet are cold and you get you get kicked or stamped on, it's worse, and also you tend to get more easily blue nails and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't really think that much about it. I just wear whatever I want. If I want a light boot, I usually go with thin synthetic boots, but. It was a good question. I usually let the playing conditions decide on which boots I wear based on the outsole, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question, but I think it's not as important. As long as you're comfortable, that's probably the most important thing with that.
Yep. So what do you think about VAR? Asks Jesse. And while you state your point, I'm just gonna get a boot for the next question. So I have that ready.
What do I think about VAR?
VAR, VAR.
Oh, VAR.
It's a thing.
The goal. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you said bar. I'm like, what the heck's bar?
Yeah. What do you think about bars, Josh? Do you go there a lot?
No, VAR. You know what? I don't love it. If I'm being honest, I'm not a big fan of sports that have been around for a very long time, introducing brand new rules just because there is this social media presence in the world now where everyone can share their opinion. If the referee doesn't make the right call, I feel like that's part of the game. So to introduce this goal review thing, it's great and all. Obviously, it did make an impact in the World Cup this past year, but I'm not a big fan. What I thought VAR caused a lot of is every time they felt like there was some kind of a missed call, you'd have all the players on the team harassing the referee for 3 or 4 minutes until he decided to go back and review the play, and then nothing happened anyways, and it just slows the whole game down.
Yeah.
I think the human error part of the refereeing aspect of the game is part of the game. It's not fun at that point if it's just a robot making all the calls. The game would be stopped every 5 seconds.
I agree with you, and I see where you're coming from. However, I also do feel that there have been so many monumental mistakes from the refs over the years that have really changed important moments in big games that I think VAR could have assisted in avoiding. And I think right now, maybe it's not the right, should we say, place, the right time, because, all the players complain to the referee, to get every time something goes against them, it's always worth challenging because, you can only, the worst thing that can happen is that the goal is standing and, what else can happen?
My opinion on it, I don't have a problem with the technology itself, but I think it shouldn't be the referee's call. I think there should be whoever's got control of watching that in real time during the match. If they view that there's a significant mistake made, they can call the referee through an earpiece and say, hey, you need to come and look at this.
Yes.
And then they do a review rather than the players just harassing the referee.
Yes.
Even just to slow the game down. Maybe they're on the losing end and under pressure, and hey, they can get the referee to stop the game for a good 3 minutes.
I totally agree.
That's a big deal.
And for me, calling for VAR should be a bookable offense, just to get players, to not do it. And there should be someone in the referee's ear saying, you need to come look at this. Otherwise, no one's looking at VAR. The ref doesn't have to worry about it, initiating looking at VAR himself.
I don't know. I don't like, just an example, in the NHL, they introduced basically like a challenge call.
Yeah.
So you can challenge a referee's call. They go to the replay, whether it's like for an offside or a penalty, whatever it may be. I think it's typically pretty much mostly for offsides or some kind of interference call.
They also have offsides in NFL?
In NHL, hockey.
Also in hockey?
Yeah, they have offsides. Yeah, they have offsides in hockey.
Such a weird sport, man.
I know. It's whatever. Either way, you can challenge the call, and if you're right, you get another challenge, I think. I could be wrong on that. I think you might only have one challenge. But if you use your challenge and you try to challenge another call, and you get it wrong, you actually get penalized for that. Now, obviously, when it's football, what are you going to do? You're going to challenge a call and you're wrong, and then it's a penalty shot against you? I don't know how that would work, but I like the fact that there's actually a penalty for using the challenge thing, right? I don't know. I'm not I don't think there's anything wrong with the technology itself. I just am afraid that this is the first step. And now every little complaint that people make on social media, is that now going to be taken into consideration and we just change the rules of the game entirely? That's what I'm worried about.
I agree with everything you said. It needs to be someone else than the referee deciding whether he should look at a challenge or not. And that's it.
Yeah.
Boom. Let's settle it right there. FIFA, pay attention, please. Now, moving on to the next question here. What boot that's been released in the past 2-3 years feels and plays the most like the Adidas F50 Adizero from 2014, the OG? And the answer, my friends, is right here in my hands. It's the Lotto Solista 2000. We actually have it on unisportstore.com. It's roughly €100, so a big fat steel. It's super light. As you can see, the upper is very thin, very soft and pliable. It feels fantastic. Light outsole, works great. I'd say everyone who likes to play in different boots, go and buy it. It's worth every cent, penny.
Yeah, I still got to try those. They look great.
Honestly, they're fantastic. These and the Maestros, woo,
really
great football boots. For €100, man, come on.
Yeah, that's cheap. I was going to say, I don't think X18.1 is too far off 2014 F50. I've been really impressed. It'd be more of the leather variation, I guess, but the Puma 19.1 low.
Yeah.
I love those.
Yeah, it's a fantastic boot. In general, the two new Puma, the future, what are they called? 19? Future 19 low and 1 low. Oh, man.
Yeah, the lows. I think the lows are the way to go with Puma this year.
And it's value for money. It's like 180 something euros. It's nothing, man.
They're a lot less than everything else.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the next question here from Bendix59. I am a 14-year-old football goalkeeper. Okay, football goalkeeper looking for the best possible boots for my position. He wants to know, he's been playing in the Predator 18.1. Please give him some suggestions so I can go try them in the Unisport store. That's a very good idea, my friend. And see if he likes them. So the thing is here, he has white feet. He's a goalkeeper who wants the perfect boot. Now, I know what you're going to say, but try and, see how you can help him the best way anyway.
No, you know what? I actually answered a question like this in a Q&A video, maybe even last week. With the boots by position thing, I'm not a big believer in. But when it comes to a goalkeeper, I think it's such a specialized position in terms of what you're doing that I think there are legitimately certain boots that would be better suited for a goalkeeper. And I guess for me, what I would personally value as a goalkeeper is I would probably want something with a bladed stud pattern, just because I think you'd want a little bit more bite when you're pushing off to dive or something like that. That would be a big thing. And then the other thing I would be concerned about is what type of feel that you like when it comes to kicking a ball, whether it's thinner or more padded. I don't know.
And that's the thing. If he's going for a white boot, I would probably say, probably the Phantom Venoms for me. I would probably go for that. It has a relatively wide fit. It has bladed studs. It's nice and comfortable. And you get a good, clean striking surface on it. Again, like Josh says, it's a little bit about, what you like, what kind of fit you like, what kind of material, how much padding do you want when you're shooting. But, for me, that would probably be a pretty good option.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. Phantom Venom, I think, is solid.
Again, I'm really against the whole positional thing, just like you, because it's completely up to you what you want to wear. Look at Victor Lindelöf. He's also wearing the Phantom Venom, which is supposed to be a finisher's boot. Like, it's all up to you what you like. Don't buy into the marketing hype. Take the boot you want to wear. That's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, for sure.
Just a question from Alejandro here that maybe you can answer, Josh. Hey, JayMike, does Unisport ship to the US?
Yes.
Thank you. Next question. Thoughts on the Copa 19 Plus Fusion Skin Leather? Innovative or stupid? An upgrade to the 18 Plus or a downgrade? Well, there was no 18 Plus, but, I know what you mean.
I think we talked about this a little bit in the last podcast.
We did, yeah.
Wrong?
But
no, I definitely think 19 Plus, very well executed, very different. We just made a boot list of like the most influential boots in history. The Copa 19 Plus just came out, but 10 years from now, I could see that being on the list.
This is for me, like, this is redefining leather. Because you can actually now you have more waterproof leather that's still soft. You actually bond it with knitted materials. You can print on leather. You've never been able to do that before. For me, it's like it's a massive innovation, and it's premature to put it on the important list right now. But as you say, 10 years down the road, I think it's definitely going to be on there. Definitely.
Yeah, it really is a first of its kind, and I think for being a first of its kind, it's extremely well executed.
I totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. All right. August asks, why do you think almost all the pros that wear the Puma Future wear it laceless? I think we're going to discuss that in a different episode because it's a bit of a bigger question, I would say. But he also asks, will we ever be able to buy it? And August, I will tell you this. If you go out and buy a Puma Future 19.1 with the laces, you can get the same boot as the pros who wear it without laces. You simply just buy the boot, you take the laces out, and you have the boot. Easy peasy.
It's really that simple?
Public service. It's that simple, guys. It doesn't have to... So, from me to you, listen to your Uncle Jay. Just take the laces out. You have a laces boot. I wouldn't personally do it, but if you want it like the pros do it, I mean, I'm not going to hold you against it.
Yeah, just a comment on that really quickly. I really feel like the Future 19.1 is not good laceless.
No.
Like, the last two models were great. You could wear them if you really, really wanted the whole laceless thing. But I feel like this new one it feels bad laceless.
I agree. I agree. Especially, you could wear the 18.1s laceless if you had to. I probably wouldn't wear the 2.1s because for me they were a little too wide. But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't go laceless on the 19.1. But that's just maybe it's just me being 30 and old.
Good tutorial though. That was a great tutorial.
Man, I've been learning from the best.
They need to put that on the lid on the box with all the other things.
Uncle Jay's advice. Take it. Man. Okay, so last couple of questions here. I saw.
And anyway, that's coming from a actual Puma designer, by the way. So that's official information.
Yeah. Right. David Alvarez. I saw a video where they put candle wax on the exposed Flyknit on the Vapor 12 to make it waterproof. Is this a good idea? I think I know which kind of video you're talking about, and I mean you can do it, and yes, wax will to some extent make water make it a little bit water repellent, but I mean I'm not really sure I would necessarily do that to my football boots. Why would you need to do that?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's a step too far. It's an unnecessary step. But then there's also the concern of, okay, you want to cover up the exposed areas on the boot because they don't have the super thin Nike skin plastic.
Yeah. But
now you're also exposing that super thin Nike skin plastic to hot wax. So, you could potentially damage the boots by doing this hack, if you want to call it a hack. But yeah, it's one of those things that I'd probably avoid.
Yeah, me too. I mean, if it works for you and you're willing to play with the warranty of your boots and the durability of your boots, I mean, go ahead. But for me, it would be like a bit like saying, okay, I have this boot. I want it to do something that it doesn't. So what do I want? I want to have boost in my vapors. So let me take like bubble wrap and cut it up and put it in my vapors. I mean, that's also a hack. You can do it, but does it make sense? Does it work? Nah.
Yeah. Also, you don't want to cover up the ACC.
Very important. Very important. Don't cover up the ACC. I mean, people can do it. People can treat their boots how they want. I probably wouldn't do it myself, and I wouldn't, I wouldn't put too much actual effect behind it. But maybe that's just me. What do I know? No. I'm just a boot nerd.
Yeah.
Okay, so final question here. What if Adidas and Nike did a collaboration and made a special edition Nike Adidas boot?
I've seen this question so many times, and I can't tell if people are joking or not. I'd like to think that they're joking. But let's say...
You know what I think would happen?
What?
That it would also be the day when you could look outside the window and see green pigs flying.
Yeah,
I don't even think it's gonna, because like I understand the question and it's a fun thought, but look at it from a Nike and Adidas perspective, right? So they're two major competitors. They're basically competing for the majority of the market, and they're in a really intense fight. Would you then reach out and say, guys, let's actually make a boot where we have to share knowledge and insights, technology, all that stuff? And it just doesn't work that way.
Jay, people also said people also said the SR4U Unisport collab would never happen though, because we hate each other.
But that's because we hated each other and still do, by the way. But I mean, I understand, yes, that sometimes it would be an unlikely thing and maybe a beautiful thing to do on like a World Peace Day, something yada yada. Very, like it would be a thing for visionaries, but I just don't see it happen practically because there's so much money and knowledge and PR value involved in this that no.
Yeah, I think people see the collaboration thing is big right now in the industry, right? But
sure.
Sportswear brands, and especially like specialized sportswear brands, they collaborate with high fashion brands that are, yes, they're in the same space, but they're not necessarily competing against each other.
Yeah.
Like for Nike to do the that boot with CR7 with the Louis Vuitton stuff or the Off-White Mercurials, Nike's not competing against Off-White.
No, but if they hook up with Adi or Puma or whatever other company that makes football boots, they risk cannibalizing their own football boots if the a loyal Nike customer buys the collaboration Nike Adidas boot to try it out because he's a loyal Nike customer, realizes, oh, this whole laceless thing is mind-blowing. I need to go and buy myself a pair of Adi boots. Becomes an Adi loyalist. Like, that would be shooting themselves in the foot. This is not happening. As nice as it would be and as fun as it would be, it's never going to work.
Yeah, it's basically, as a brand, if you're collaborating with another brand, you are now endorsing that brand as like, hey, this is a reputable company that we like. We can recommend their products because we're associating them with our brand, right?
Yeah.
It'd be like the Nike ad for the Phantom Venom, and it's like, oh, here's a new Phantom Venom, but the Predator is pretty good too.
Exactly. It's like they basically vouch for whoever they're collabing with. So no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically,
but to answer the question, it would be a laceless Superfly with Flywire and ACC.
Yeah, carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber.
Does this podcast also mean that I'm vouching for SR4U laces?
I suppose so, yeah.
I don't like them because they don't have ACC on them yet. So I can't.
See, a lot of people don't realize that they do have ACC. They've always had it. You just can't see it. You just can't see it.
I think with that comment, it's time for us to close episode 7 of the beautiful Boot Nerds podcast. Thank you so much, guys, for your questions, and thank you so much for listening. Please do remember to slap a like on the video. Leave your questions in the comment section right down below. As always, audio-only versions are found on bootnerds.com. Very easy to remember. Remember that also, if you want to see more of Josh's stuff, where he actively pushes his SR4U ACC laces, you can click the subscribe button to his channel right over there. You can also go and see what I'm up to at Unisport by clicking right over there. And of course, don't forget to click the subscribe button for the Boot Nerds podcast so you can get your weekly boot fix where we talk everything boots. Anything
cool.
more to say?
Nope, you did a great job, Jay.
Thank you. I endorse you. Signing off, cheerio.
See you in the next episode, guys. Later.
Bye.